Hi, I'm Danielle Pashko from Soul Hacker, and I'm here with a longtime friend, colleague, Oz Garcia. He is a pioneer in the health and wellness anti-aging industry. I think over 40 years for sure, you've been doing it. He looks amazing. Oz is in his 70s, which is shocking. So you know he's onto something.
Shocking.
You're a best-selling author. You have this amazing practice in New York City, and you're so knowledgeable in so many areas. But I really want to talk about one that you were kind of, I would say, pioneering before anyone else,
Right.
and it's peptides. You were
Yeah.
doing peptides like years ago. I remember trying them out with you, and now
Right.
there's so much interest. So
Yep.
I just want to talk a little bit about it for people who are new to this space. Can you just explain what peptides are and how they function in the body?
Yeah. Well, you've got categories of supplements, let's say, right? Now the word is nutraceutical. That's the
Right.
new word. And nutraceuticals come in different forms and flavors. You've got vitamins, you have minerals, you have herbs, you have essential fatty acids like fish oil. Um, you've got different nutrients that actually don't fall into any of those categories that impact quality of life. We'll call them quality of life nutrients, the ones that actually affect potential for DNA repair. And then you've got nootropics, which are nutrients man-made that actually impact quality of brain function. And then you have peptides, which are very novel combinations of protein precursors, which are called amino acids. Now, amino acids are building blocks, it's like Lego blocks, and depending on how you configure them, you get a protein. So you get a chicken leg, you'll get a piece of beef, you get vegetarian protein like lentils, black beans, and so on. So different amino acids will determine the protein that you produce as an end product. An egg is the perfect protein. It's got all 22 amino acids.
Right.
And what we now know is that you can take amino acids on their own and they produce unique effects within the human body. So for instance, you can take creatine. We now know that creatine in certain amounts has a massive effect on how well the brain performs. More studies are coming out on creatine every day.
Right. Muscle repair.
Got tremendous.
Yeah.
And not only that, but also muscle building. So as you get
Mhm.
older, you can reduce what's called senescence, the premature, the maturation of muscle, where you're losing muscle mass. So
Right.
you can take something like creatine, and then mix it with another amino acid or two or three or 20 in ways that they're not found in nature and create this whole new novel configuration, which is called a peptide. Now, what we know about peptides is that although they're man-made and they would be considered not natural, they produce very natural effects within the human body. So there are peptides that optimize heart function.
Hmm.
Uh, there are peptides that improve how the gut works. There are peptides that improve lung function so you can breathe better. There are peptides that clearly have a highly measurable effect on how you think, the ability to produce new healthy neurons. So you and I could go through many different categories and come up with different peptides that are now on the market and available to, I'd say, amplify, upgrade how it is that any part of our bodies work overall. You can do miracles almost. You can build a better immune system with different peptides.
100%. I mean, my experience with peptides is I've tried them orally, but also injectables. And I feel like the injectables worked better, but I'm just curious about your opinion on that.
Some peptides, it, it 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 doesn't matter in terms of which are you going to get into your body. Injecting it, taking it sublingual, nasal spray. Some matter. The only way you're going to get it into your body is by injecting it.
Mm.
Uh, some work only really well by nasal application. Two of them, which affect human mood. One is called Selank and one is called Cmax.
Oh, I
And
love both of those. You turned me on to them, and
they're
they
crazy.
helped with my stress, anxiety, my brain. I just felt like actually, I don't know why I don't take it anymore, but it's such a good peptide.
Yeah, we come back to it. We come
Yeah.
back. And they also build the different enzymes that build a better brain. So Selank has two effects: immediate,
Hmm.
which is it increases GABA in your brain very quickly. You feel relieved and released from anxiety really quickly. The effect lasts for about an hour, more or less. But the secondary effect is it's generating the production of an enzyme that drops off with stress, wear and tear, aging, and so on, that builds a better brain overall too. So that's one of the more remarkable things. Now, as you and I get affected in the day-to-day world, we're also dealing with stress. So stress can blow us apart in all the ways that you know, and there are very specific uh, peptides that actually reverse the damage from stress and may actually mitigate it. So you can actually function better under tremendous demands on your body and your brain.
So what would you say would be one of those peptides for tremendous stress? I know you're talking about Selank, but something else that are you talking about the physical assault of stress or even like just the mental or all of it, right? Because all of it causes dysregulation in our body, no matter if it's a physical assault, an emotional assault, or stress, and that affects our
It depends on what the end result of stress is in your body,
yeah.
right? In your being. So, are you tired? You can't sleep well? You're tossing and turning in bed before you fall asleep. You're waking up in the middle of the night for half an hour. You can't go back to bed, and you're just trying to solve the problems of the world at 2, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning. What's your stress?
Right.
Are you waking up exhausted? Are you going through the day tired, unable to confront really what's on your plate? And yet you have to do it. You need to show up and earn a living and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot. And then there's the stress that comes from trauma. If you read the news,
Ugh,
if you've
yeah.
got problems with your kids or your significant other. So call it for what it is. Pick your weapon. I'm sure there's a peptide that's going to at core begin to deal with the bad feelings that are coming off of stress.
Some of the peptides that you introduced me to when I was going through my stage with my when I was dealing with my chronic illness situation
Yeah.
were thymosin alpha 1, which
Unbelievable.
helped my immune system. Like, wow, that was such a good one. Um,
Yes.
BPC 157, you also introduced me to years ago. Now, like a lot of people know about that.
Correct.
Um,
And along with that one is TB 500. So typically now the mix is TB 500 and BPC. TB
okay,
is body 500 and
yeah,
BPC is body protection compound
right.
157. So they both deal with damage to the body, inflammatory damage, but injuries from working out, accidents, the fact that we overproduce under stress a lot of inflammatory compounds, cytokines, and so on that hurt. So
Absolutely.
those are two really critical ones for pain.
For pain, for sure. And cerebrolysin, which for my brain was tremendous as well, that you
Okay.
also introduced me to.
We love Cerebrolysin. It's a neuropeptide. It's available here now more, but we found it in Europe, about 20 years ago.
Mhm.
And we use that you can inject, you can put it into an IV, but you can also put it into a nasal spray.
Mm.
So we, in very small amounts as a nasal spray, we're dealing with severe neurodegenerative diseases,
Yeah,
individuals that have MS and Parkinson's, to just being wiped out, immunologically wiped out,
of course.
a nervous system that's wiped out again from stress, however it is that you're defining.
Yeah,
So right there, we're addressing concerns that show up in everyday life for people.
absolutely. And also people are really having a hard time as they're moving into middle age or going through women with perimenopause or men going through andropause. And it's just like, this decline in hormones. And I haven't used it myself, but I keep hearing that peptides are good for these conditions. What's your opinion on that?
Okay, so give me the question again.
So women that are dealing with their hormonal changes or men that are having decrease in their maybe their testosterone or
Sure.
they're not feeling as strong. Are there peptides that can
So we're
help
talking about perimenopause,
perimenopause, andropause for men?
menopause, andropause for men.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there are peptides that maintain. Excuse me, I'm actually second a supplement while we're talking.
Oh, I'm curious to know which one, but you don't have to tell.
Um, if you're a man and you're using testosterone,
Hmm.
problem. One is there are studies that seem to correlate the use of exogenous external testosterone.
Hmm.
Okay, through an injection, pellets that you can put in yourself, women that can you put estrogen pellets in their bodies and so
Or
on.
women do testosterone pellets also. Yeah.
Yeah, and it will decrease your ability to produce your own
Mhm.
over time. So there are different peptides that men can use that as a secondary effect is the production of testosterone. And for women, the same thing, that it will help it kind of allow you to slide through perimenopause and menopause with enormous grace and ease as these products, as more people know about these products.
So
Um,
so I just have a question about that because I feel like this topic is constant, especially women around my age or a little bit older going through this perimenopause and they're like, do I take bioidentical hormones? What do I do? What's the next step? And if there is some way that peptides can be beneficial, that's a very big exciting thing to look at to know that that actually may be helpful. Huh.
well, I mean, within our lifetime, menopause as a concern will come to an end with the advances in genetics, with the understanding of human biology, with the amount of effort that's going into trying to expand a human life, right? But being able to live longer, live
Hmm.
better. There's arguments on both sides of the fence about whether we should be paying attention to maintaining health span so that so long as you're alive, you remain in good condition.
There shouldn't
And
be any argument with that. It's so crazy. Of course.
yeah, but then I've seen polls where they're asking people if you could live to 130, but you're in a wheelchair, as opposed to living to 100 and running marathons. I'm seeing people picking live to 100 and be in a wheelchair. And so they're a bit more attached to
Yeah.
like I'm just attached to being in great condition till the last minute.
I'm with
So
you. It's like if we're not even ourselves if we're not in good health. That's
that is correct.
our identity. So it has to be that way. Absolutely.
Correct. And so far, you and I have defined the odds in terms of certainly I am at my age with taking advantage of all these hacks, for lack of a better word, and how I can maintain a body that's functioning about 30 years younger,
Yeah.
almost indefinitely. So you've got peptides for women in terms of menopause, like Kisspeptin, which can be done with injectable. Same
Hmm.
thing with somebody who's an expert in this field. There's plenty of us. Um, I think PT-141 is remarkable also for women. Um,
Okay. Is it like
I,
how often would they be getting those injections?
it's almost subjective.
Okay.
I always start with the lowest dose,
Hmm.
with the lowest amount of use to see the effect, almost like to get a baseline. And then
Okay.
from there, you can increase a little bit and then back off. So I work almost in like micro dosing and then micro dosing and then dosing.
That's one thing
And
I love about the way that you work. I'm sorry just to interrupt, but you're very conservative about, I mean, all the years that I've been with you, you never start anyone like grenade approach. Let's just go after everything and bomb them with supplements or peptides. You start off very, very slow, eventually till they are able to tolerate it. And I find that it makes such a difference because when
it
something
does.
new to our body, it's like it could be too much, but if we can slowly build up to it, it's all the difference. So I really appreciate that you work that way.
We'll think about all the GLP-1 products that are on the market, right?
Yeah.
Ozempic, OB,
Hmm.
whatever else. They're
Yeah.
all
Kobe
peptides.
Mentor, yeah.
Yeah, but the medical, but they're using it, but they're being used like a medicine.
Yeah.
So the doctors often start people on an extremely high dose, and I can't tell how many people recoil.
Yeah.
Right, the side effects are intolerable. Many people will use these higher dosages for months, get the weight loss, but also they're losing a tremendous amount of muscle mass in the process, right? And then there's the rebound. So now you have a postmodern way of dealing with weight loss. The rebound effect is being produced by peptides that are being often used improperly. And so instead of being on a diet where you rebound, you're rebounding off of peptides. People go back and use them again. I
Yeah.
think that you can stay on them indefinitely, so long as you're being very prudent, judicious,
Right.
and know how to regulate the best of what GLP-1 peptides do, like control
Mhm.
appetite, cravings for many people. It's cravings for stuff besides food, alcohol, tobacco, nicotine, uh, um, YouTube. I mean, I just go on how it
Yeah.
is that people back away from what the brain is really craving. It's just fascinating that you can actually do that with peptides.
Definitely. And also, there's a lot of talk about nootropics. You've been into those forever. And just for people to understand the difference between a nootropic for the brain as opposed to a peptide, which also works for the brain, but how do you distinguish the two?
Well, we know, for instance, that there are other nutrients that work for the brain. You know, there are herbs or plants that work for the brain. Ashwagandha does, bacopa
Mhm.
does, rhodiola does. There are supplements that you can get like GPC, acetylcarnitine, that also make you think better, right?
Yeah.
And they're kind of like micro nootropics. Caffeine is a nootropic. Coffee is a nootropic, right? It's kind of crude.
Hmm.
You move into more sophisticated versions of them, where you've got like the racetams, like piracetam, aniracetam, oxiracetam. They come in capsule or pills, and piracetam is like the granddaddy of all nootropics. Now, it comes from the Greek word to make intelligent,
Oh, I
right?
like that. Okay.
So yeah, so that's the root of it. So when you use a nootropic like piracetam, what you're doing is you're increasing focus, um, recall. You can actually discharge obligations better. We
Hmm.
found that it works really well for people that are ADD, ADHD. Um, and we've been able to actually kind of switch them out of using very powerful ADD medications onto nootropics, which actually don't come with the consequences, right?
And I'm sure the same way, you're also starting off very small
Very
and to be adjusted and then eventually moving on to a regular dose.
correct.
Mhm.
So piracetam I started using probably in the 1980s,
Oh,
and
that long ago?
so yeah,
Wow.
piracetam may have been the only player on the block.
Okay.
There's a funny story behind it. It was created, as I recall, in Eastern Europe, I think in Hungary, and they used to give it away during Soviet times to the workers, and it would make them really happy workers. You know, they would
Mm.
focus better, produce more. So it would give them relief from the tedious work that they were doing. The Germans then kind of mobilized piracetam and spun it and made it even more effective. I think it's the number one over-the-counter product sold in Germany right now. So you can take it in a form called Neutropil,
Okay.
and it's available to be taken. People take it to go to work, and it works better than coffee for many people. So there are nootropics that come by different categories, and they affect different parts of the brain in the same way that you can do with peptides. So there are the nootropics that you can take before bedtime that will allow you to sleep better and you wake up clearer.
Mm-hmm.
There are peptides that will allow you to sleep better also, for instance, and fix the circadian rhythm. So nootropics and peptides sometimes kind of have a very
Intersect,
porous
right?
border.
Yeah.
Like nootropics and a peptide, they kind of work
Mhm.
very similar. And it depends on the flavor that you like. You know,
Yeah.
I like Piracetam better for thinking in the daytime, although there may be a peptide that does a very similar function, let's say.
Interesting. So you've always been super into brain health, and like I know you always have different things that you're playing with, but right now, currently, like what's the flavor for you now in terms of the stack that you do to support your brain health, your focus throughout the day, sleep well? Like just you don't have to go into everything because you I know you take a lot,
Sure.
but just like a little taste of what you take.
Okay, so I think a base probiotics are critical
Mhm.
for all of us. So there's a base of probiotics no matter what. Um,
Okay.
and anything to support the digestive system and the bowel wall, I think is critical so that everything else kind of builds on top of it. I
Hmm.
think uric acid, butyrate is remarkable as a prebiotic.
Hmm.
Uh, I think using postbiotics are also really important. So these are things that kind of set your bowel up so that probiotics work better.
Yes.
With new studies on whole new generations of probiotics that are around now that weren't really well studied even a year ago, let alone 5 years ago, 20 years ago. So we're way past just taking acidophilus, right? Um, that's how I start my day. And then I do
Empty
like,
stomach? Sorry, just
yeah,
okay.
and I may make a smoothie after I have my coffee, which is really almost like a beverage
Okay.
that has nootropics added to it. Um, um, I use glycine a lot, which is
Hmm.
very soothing for the nervous system. There's a combination of glycine and another amino acid-like compound called N-acetylcysteine. You can get that in a powder combination, NAC plus glycine, but it's one of the more remarkable products that are being studied for life extension, health span. Um,
You're reminding me what I'm forgetting to take now. Okay, sorry, keep going.
yeah, so that, and then I'm not going to go into the dozen other nutrients that
Mhm.
I do put a scoop of cacao powder raw into my coffee also. We know that using cacao um, reduces the risk of a cardiovascular event from any fucking cause at all. So using pure dark chocolate is pretty remarkable. There's a particular acid in coffee which I use as a supplement also. It comes in coffee, but I
Mhm.
kind of supplement it, which also reduces the risk of a heart attack. Heart disease runs in my family. I'm not taking any chances.
I don't
Um,
believe.
then there's I like um, a uh, um, a peptide that actually helps my mitochondria. Having been really sick with COVID years ago, we both know the story. I wrote a book
Yeah.
about it. People want to know about it. My energy really suffered a lot. Energy is produced in these little engines in our cells called mitochondria. So there are peptides that support mitochondrial function. And I do a microdose shot, I'd say 3 or 4 mornings a week of a mitochondrial peptide called MOTS-c, MOTS dash small c.
Okay.
And people can go to ChatGTP, find out about it, contact you. But that really helps
And this
tremendously.
is just like like a shot, like like you just take it on
You can either do it underneath your tongue
under your tongue. Okay.
and or literally a shot if you want to inject it right into your belly. But the amounts are extremely small. When
Okay.
you're injecting peptides, it's not like an injection. These are subcutaneous. The amounts that you're injecting are extremely small. For people that know about this, it's kind of like diabetic amounts of insulin. You're doing like a fraction of a cc or an ml. Um, then the rest of the day, I'm doing different nutrients that I know reduce the speed at which I'm aging based on studies that are out there. Quercetin, ficetine. Those are extracts of fruits, primarily quercetin. Ficetine is an extract of berries, of strawberries. We know that the both of them slow down the speed at which cells age in our body. And then there are other ones that I'm using in addition for my brain function. One is called acetylcarnitine,
Hmm.
and which I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, I mean, guys, look at Oz. You look so incredible. I mean, you've always looked incredible. It just like, over the years, I remember when you turned 60 and that was like, how's this guy not 40? Like, how's he 60? And now your age, it's like it's just unbelievable.
Crazy.
So
And
what
then let me tell you the sleep ones because the
oh,
people,
yes, yes, yes.
both of the people really suffer a lot from sleep. There's one called a Pidilon, which you can take as a tablet, as a sublingual drop or as an injection. A Pidilon protects the tips of DNA, which are called telomeres,
Mhm.
and telomeres are like the tips on a shoestring. Right? They get shorter with age and with damage. A Pidilon makes them grow back. Weirdly enough, a Pidilon, when you take it at bedtime, also improves melatonin production within the pineal gland and serotonin production. So you sleep deeper. You
Is that
sleep.
better than taking, it's probably better than taking melatonin on its own because
Yeah, I don't do well taking melatonin.
I
I
remember
don't
that.
I
Yeah.
have crazy dreams and I wake up groggy.
Yeah.
Some people do really well with it, but making your own is the trick. And a Pinot makes you make your own, completely different experience because you're making it anyway, right? Point is to make a sufficient amount that it's going to affect the quality of your sleep. So that's what a day looks like. And yeah, there are others, but I suspect we'll probably do a follow-up and kind of cover those.
Just one last question about the
Sure.
Epsilon. How, like, is this one of the things that you have to cycle or is it safe to take for?
At my age, I'm not taking any chance. I don't cycle much of anything. It's
Okay.
straight out. I do blood work pretty consistently. I mean,
Yeah.
I have my own clinic, so I can kind of stay on top of things, but also subjectively what's going on in my body, what's going on at this point. I was just looking at what I'd look like a year after I got out of the hospital with COVID. Uh,
Yeah.
you know how Apple Photos will send you pictures from like a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years, and it sent one which showed me sitting on my office couch 4 years ago, the first summer after I got out of the hospital with severe COVID pneumonia, and I looked horrible. I mean, but it was more the fear in my face and the
Yeah.
exhaustion of what I'd gone through, and I'm sitting here looking back, and I just don't recognize that person. Like
Well,
so working all of these different categories of nutrients, it's paid off really well.
but I also want to mention you've done all the work with taking the supplements and doing all these protocols, and you've done terrific at it. But just to credit you, you do so much of the emotional, the spiritual work, the Joe Dispenza. You do all of it.
Sure.
I think as a combination, I think most people need to follow that. It's not just taking all the peptides and nootropics and all that are great, but the inner work as well. And you've really mastered that. So I think it's that is why you've had such a like a mind-blowing recovery. And thank God.
I would
It's
think so. I would think so. And we live in a culture and times where what can you believe?
yeah,
Uh, it's just past fake news at this point, or what politicians say.
yeah.
There's been a collapse in our trusting information sources, and so you've got so many competing voices, and you got to really cultivate your own philosophy, your own way of thinking, so that you can navigate the world that much better and find in the end what you're pointing to, which is peace of mind. Well, peace of mind, joy, tranquility, things that I never really thought mattered years ago. And now they're central to everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm sure people are going to want to speak to you because you have so much information, and I feel like so much of what I know is from so much time working with you and having you in my head and watching you at work. So how do people get in touch with you?
OzGarcia.com. They can reach me through info at OzGarcia.com.
Okay.
Can also reach us on Instagram. We have a channel, so you can actually go get the code on Oz Wellness on
Awesome.
Instagram. Follow the channel there, and you can also contact me through IG. But I'm posting there every day. Some